Remember back in high school when we were given an assignment that was due in a month? And of course, we began working on that project the next day, right? Wrong. For most of us, we put that project off until the last minute and ended up looking like this a couple of days before it was due. Now, I share that story because when it's time for us to do our BNI featured presentation or any presentation, we might find ourselves returning to those habits and feeling like this. Why? How many agree it's because getting started on the presentation is the hardest thing to do? Hi, my name is Marc-Charles, and as part of my presentation series, last time we talked about how to deliver a captivating introduction. Today, we're going to talk about how to create an effective and engaging presentation. I'm going to share with you three main topics on creating the body of the presentation. First, how do you even start putting the presentation together? Then, how do you keep it interesting and engage the audience? And finally, how do you structure the overall presentation? When we're done, you're going to know exactly how to put together any presentation, and you'll know how to do it in a way that's faster and easier than you could ever imagine. Are you ready? So, how do you start writing a presentation? How do you go from a blank screen to having something, anything on the page? The secret to this is to start with the end in mind. In other words, what is the outcome you'd like to achieve? The first step in this beginning with the end in mind process is to set a timer for 20 minutes. Then start the timer, and during that 20 minutes, you're going to write down the questions that you want to answer for your audience, or the question that you think your audience wants to ask. Don't do anything else. Just keep writing out questions as they come to you for about 20 minutes. When the 20 minutes are done, take a short break. The next step is go back and answer each of those questions. You can take a little break when you're done with that process. Finally, you're going to group those questions and answers into no more than 3 topics or categories that seem to fit together. If some of the questions and answers are outside of those 3 main topics, drop them. Don't include them as part of your presentation. So now, you have the basis of what your presentation is going to be about. You'll find that the hard part is actually over. You successfully started, and you're about 1/3 of the way done. When the 3 main topics are set, you now need to know, how do you keep the presentation interesting? How do you engage your audience? How do you keep them from falling asleep? And yet, you want your presentation to be effective. So as part of your presentation, you're naturally going to give facts, but the one thing you must keep in mind is facts tell and stories sell. Here are 3 ways to make your presentation more interesting. As you're giving your facts, be sure to weave in stories from time to time. For example, while I was visiting another BNI chapter, I heard a website designer say that they help their clients be found on the internet. Then they gave an example of how they were working with a chiropractor that had no internet presence whatsoever. They created an outstanding website, and within 6 months, because of the website and the right SEO, they had 6 months later, the owner had to hire another chiropractor to handle the number of patients coming to their doors. Now, did you catch that? That was a story within a story. Were you listening? Were you engaged? Your audience will be too. One of the biggest challenges I had when it came to putting together presentations is that I didn't have any set structure. So as a result, I frequently made my presentations too long, or as my wife would say, long-winded. That was until I learned how to structure my presentation like the pros. Most professional presentations will contain 3 main topics, and each of those main topics will have 3 subtopics. If it's a longer presentation, you can even go 1 level more and have the subtopics have 3 subtopics, but no more than that. Now, presentations generally have a basic structure of an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. And that introduction, body, and conclusion should follow this flow regarding the audience. Tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them what you told them. Today, we learned how to begin with the end in mind, using the 20-minute question and answer method. Then we learned that for the main body of our presentation, we want to include facts, but we also want to keep our audience engaged, and so we have to remember that facts tell and stories sell. Finally, we learned that the main structure of the presentation is a structure of introduction, body, and conclusion, where we tell the audience what we're going to tell them, then we tell them, and finally, we tell them what we told them. So the next time it's your turn to deliver your BNI featured presentation or any other presentation, implement these 3 strategies, and you'll have your audience engaged and wanting more. Next time, we'll talk about how to create and deliver the all-important conclusion to your presentation. Stay tuned.